manu palaya banzar sato tino pa ti chan do me bawa suda kayo me bawa supo chayo me bawa anurato me bawa sarva sede me drayeta sarva karma suja me titan hirayam koro ho bangave sarva tatang katam benza mame menza benza bhava maha samaya sadho om benza sato samaya manu palaya benza sato tino pa ti chandro me bhava Suda kayo me bhava, supo chayo me bhava, anurato me bhava, sarva siddhe me drayeta, sarva karma suja me citan hirayam koro ho bangave, sarva tatang katam benza mame menza benza bhava maha samaya sadho om benza sato samaya manu palaya benza sato tino pa ti chandro me bhava Suda kayo me bhava, supo chayo me bhava, anurato me bhava, sarva siddhe me drayeta, sarva karma suja me citan hirayam koro ho bangave, sarva tatang katam benza mame menza benza bhava maha samaya sadho om benza sato samaya manu palaya benza sato tino pa ti chandro me bhava Suda kayo me bhava, supo chayo me bhava, anurato me bhava, sarva siddhe me drayeta, sarva karma suja me citan hirayam koro ho bangave, sarva tatang katam benza mame menza benza bhava maha samaya sadho om benza sato samaya manu palaya benza sato tino pa ti chandro me bhava Suda kayo me bhava, supo chayo me bhava, anurato me bhava, sarva siddhe me drayeta, sarva karma suja me citan hirayam koro ho bangave, sarva tatang katam benza mame menza benza bhava maha samaya sadho om benza sato samaya manu palaya benza sato tino pa ti chandro me bhava Suda kayo me bhava, supo chayo me bhava, anurato me bhava, sarva siddhe me drayeta, sarva karma suja me citan hirayam koro ho bangave, sarva tatang katam benza mame menza benza bhava maha samaya sadho om benza sato samaya manu palaya Banzar sato ti no pa ti chan zho me ba wa. Sutta kayo me ba wa, supo chayo me ba wa. Anurato me ba wa, sarva siddhe me drayeta. Sarva karma sutta me citan hirayam kuro. Ha 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 ho bangave sarva tathangatam benza mame menza benza bhava maha samaya sato Om benza sato samaya manupalaya benza sato tino pa ti chan me bhava Sutta kayo me ba wa, supo chayo me ba wa. Anurato me ba wa, sarva siddhe me drayeta. Sarva karma sutta me citan hirayam kuro. Ha 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 ho bangave. Sarva tathangatam benza mame menza benza bhava maha samaya sato Om benza sato samaya manupalaya benza sato tino pa ti chan zho me bhava Sutta kayo me ba wa, supo chayo me ba wa. Anurato me ba wa, sarva siddhe me drayeta. Sarva karma sutta me citan hirayam kuro. Ha 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 ho bangave. Sarva tathangatam benza mame menza benza bhava maha samaya sato Om benza sato samaya manupalaya benza sato tino pa ti chan zho me bhava Sutta kayo me ba wa, supo chayo me ba wa. Anurato me ba wa, sarva siddhe me drayeta. Sarva karma sutta me citan hirayam kuro. Ha 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 ho bangave. Sarva tathangatam benza mame menza benza bhava maha samaya sato Om benza sato samaya manupalaya benza sato tino pa ti chan zho me bhava Sutta kayo me ba wa, supo chayo me ba wa. Anurato me ba wa, sarva siddhe me drayeta. Sarva karma sutta me citan hirayam kuro. Ha 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 ho bangave. Sarva tathangatam benza mame menza benza bhava maha samaya sato Om benza sato samaya manupalaya benza sato tino pa ti chan zho me bhava Sutta kayo me ba wa, supo chayo me ba wa. Anurato me ba wa, sarva siddhe me drayeta. Sarva karma sutta me citan hirayam kuro. Ha 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 ho bangave. Sarva tathangatam benza mame menza benza bhava maha samaya sato Om benza sato samaya manupalaya Banzar Sato Tino Pa Tichan Jedo Me Bawa Suda Kayo Me Bawa Supo Chayo Me Bawa Anurato Me Bawa Sarva Siddhe Me Drayeta Sarva Karma Sutta Me Citan Hirayam Kuro ha 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 ho banga ven sarva tatanga tam benza mame menza benza bhava maha samaya sato om benza sato samaya manu palaya benza sato tino pa tichan jedo me bhava Sutta kayo me bhava, supo chayo me bhava, anurato me bhava, sarva siddhe me drayeta, sarva karma sutta me citan hirayam kuro ha 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 ho banga Sarva Tathangata Benza Mame Menza Benza Bhava Maha Samaya Sato Om Benza Sato Samaya Manu Palaya Benza Sato Tino Pa Tichan Jedo Me Bhava Sutta kayo me bhava, supo chayo me bhava, anurato me bhava, sarva siddhe me drayeta, sarva karma sutta me citan hirayam kuro ha 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 ho banga Sarva Tathangata Benza Mame Menza Benza Bhava Maha Samaya Sato Om Benza Sato Samaya Manu Palaya Benza Sato Tino Pa Tichan Jedo Me Bhava Sutta kayo me bhava, supo chayo me bhava, anurato me bhava, sarva siddhe me drayeta, sarva karma sutta me citan hirayam kuro ha 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 ho.
Welcome, everyone. Can you guys hear me all right? Okay, we're back, Barbara.
Wonderful.
We're a little bit early, but
we'll give it a few more minutes.
Yeah. Okay, we're back.
I hope you all enjoyed a leisurely lunch or whatever time it is where you are. I'm going to give it just another couple of minutes because I want to give transmission for the practice. I'd like to have everybody here. And for that part, where I'm transmitting the practice, it would be good for those of you who are still snacking if you'll put your food aside once we begin that, so that we're not combining those two activities. Because what you're going to take in is the practice, and then later you can go back to snacking again. Thank you. I want to say a few words about these two. I'm giving two practices today. They're both Vajrasattva. One is the longer form, one is very short. These come to me from His Holiness Dudjom Rinpoche. They are part of the Nundro practices that were given back in those days, I think still given now. Dudjom Tersar Nundro, meaning the new treasure of Dudjom. And these are the practices that I did and the way I learned how to practice during the Nundro, which began for me in the year 1984 when I was 44. And they remain for me Dharma treasures beyond price. They are the distilled nectar of the fully awake, beauteous, transcendent mind of the Guru. He was known for the vast sky-like quality of his mind, and that is what he transmitted. So that I have these two practices to give is a joy for me. And I give them to you with complete confidence because I see in myself the gradual process of transformation, purification, transformation, expansiveness. And that process is the process we all go through at some stage on the path. And I can say without any doubt or hesitation that this practice of Vajrasattva has been central for me in the process of beginning the path, knowing where to place my feet on the path, and gradually coming to feel and to know that the progress on the path is precious. Every step, whether it looks as if it's the first step or you think it might be the last, it's precious. It's each of us placing our mind in pure intention for the benefit of all beings to attain the highest possible realization in this and all lifetimes, to empty samsara from its depths and to free beings from the causes of suffering and their results. In other words, to become ourselves liberators of beings. I have confidence that this practice, the practice of Vajrasattva, is an impeccable, perfect, pristine part of that process of awakening. So I give it to you with complete confidence and joy. Now, I know that there are many in our Zoom room today who have already received Vajrasattva practice and for whom it's probably as dear as it has been to me. But for those of you who haven't, I'm delighted and honored and grateful to be able to share this with you. So the way we're going to proceed, I will give first what's called the lung, which is the verbal transmission of the practice, in which essentially the practice is being poured into you. You don't have to do anything. You can just sit there, receptive, the way a beautiful vessel is receptive, whether it's made out of silver or gold or pewter or ceramic, whatever it may be made out of. Your vessel is perfect and pure in its nature and ready to receive this pure process, this pure practice. So this is just the pouring into you. And for that, when I receive in this way, this is called the lung. When I receive in this way, I'm aware that there is a natural opening in the subtle channels at the top of the head, about 8 finger widths back from the hairline. In the crown, sometimes it's called the aperture of Brahma, sometimes it's called the crown lotus. And I, in anticipatory joy and gratitude, I just imagine that aperture opening to receive. So I will read first the longer practice, and immediately afterward, I'll read the second, which is much shorter. I'll give you the titles of both. And as I say, I received them roughly 1984. So, the purification of obscurations, the meditation of Vajrasattva, 2 practices from His Holiness Dudjom Rinpoche. Recitation of the preliminary practice of the profound secret heart essence of the Dakini, called Chariot of the Path of Union. The meditation and recitation of Vajrasattva to purify unfavorable circumstances, sins, and obscurations. Visualize the root teacher in the form of Vajrasattva and consort as actually sitting above the crown of one's head, generating fierce remorse and repentance for previous sins. From now on, vow never to repeat them, even at the cost of one's life. Think that by the continuous stream of bodhicitta nectar coming from the mantra circling in his heart, all one's sins, obscurations, faults, and downfalls without remainder become purified. By keeping in mind the essential points of the 4 powers, above the crown of my head on a lotus and moon seat is the teacher Vajrasattva, the color of crystal, peaceful, smiling, supremely radiant, youthful, with the major characteristics and minor marks, right and left hands holding Vajra of skillful means and bell of wisdom, with complete Sambhogakaya adornments, sitting in the lotus posture, embracing Yama in his lap, who holds a curved blade and skull cup. From the mantra garland around the hung on the moon disk in his heart, bodhicitta nectar streams down through the point of their union and enters through my aperture of Brahma, filling my entire body. All damaged and broken vows, sins, and downfalls without exception are purified. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Tishtradino Mebawa Sutokayo Mebawa Supokayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarvasiddhi Me Prayatsa Sarva Karma Sutsame Tsitam Shiriam Kuruhung Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vajrama Me Munsa Vajra Bhava Mahasamaya Sato Thus, by reciting as much as one is able, one's whole body inside becomes fully white, and having become completely filled by the continuous stream of nectar, all sins, obscurations, and breakage of vows are purified. Imagining that one's body and mind are pervaded by stainless bliss is the outer manner of purification of obscurations. Finally, with fierce, yearning devotion, Protector! Through unknowing and ignorance, I have transgressed and damaged my samaya vows. Teacher, protector, grant me refuge. O Lord, holder of the Vajra, who is the very nature of great compassion, Lord of all beings, I take refuge in you. All samaya vows of body, speech, and mind, root and branch, which I have damaged and broken, I repent and confess. All accumulations of defilements, obscurations, faults, downfalls, and stains, I beseech you to purify and cleanse. Having fervently prayed thus, Vajrasattva, with a pleasantly smiling face, Says, child of noble family, all of your sins, obscurations, faults, and downfalls are purified. Imagine that absolution is granted. All sins and obscurations purified, one's body becomes like a crystal globe. Once more, Vajrasattva shimmeringly melts into the form of white light, mingling with self-phenomena which become the form of Vajrasattva. Regard all phenomenal existence as the display of infinite purity. Om Vajrasattva Hum. Thus, Vajrasattva on the crown of one's head dissolves into one. Imagine that one also becomes Vajrasattva. Regarding appearances, sounds, and thoughts, 3, as the play of the deity, mantra, and dharmata, while reciting the quintessential mantra, Om Vajrasattva Hum, is the inner manner of purification of obscurations. Finally, even the conceptualization of deity and mantra dissolves into luminous clarity, pure from the beginning. Awareness, voidness, is the real meaning of seeing the self-face of Vajrasattva. This is the secret, unsurpassable manner of the purification of obscurations. And that concludes the lung for the first of the two practices. And here is the lung for the second practice. The preliminary practice of the new treasure of Dujum, His Holiness Dujum Rinpoche Jigdral Yeshe Dorje. Remain in one's ordinary state. Ah. Above one's head is Vajrasattva, inseparable from the Lama. From Vajrasattva's body, a nectar stream descends, purifying my obscurations. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Tishtrajido Mebawa Sutokayo Mebawa Supokayo Mebawa Anurakta Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sarva Karma Sutsame Sitam Shiryam Kuru Hung Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vajramame Mutsa Vajribawa Mahasamaya Sattva. Thus, with the visualization of the nectar descending and purifying, recite the 100 syllables and Om Vajrasattva Hum. Then recite the 6-syllable mantra as much as one can. Then Vajrasattva melts into light and becomes mingled in one taste with one's own perceptions. Thus, having gathered Vajrasattva into oneself, remain in meditation. And that concludes the transmission of the short Dudu Tersim Nundro Vajrasattva practice, and the long then of the two practices is now complete. And now I'd like to give some explication for the two practices so that we have practice instructions and understand what it is that we're visualizing and working with in the mind as we receive the nectar flowing down from Vajrasattva through the aperture of Brahma and filling the entire body with nectar. So in the visualization, the first thing is simply the visualization of the form of Vajrasattva. And could we put that up on the screen, Saul? The image? And we screen share with me. So, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm working on it.
Sorry.
Can you see it?
I would love to have that be also spotlighted. Is that possible?
Let me see.
If maybe you can do both Vajrasattva and me, or if you only have to choose one, then choose Vajrasattva.
Okay, hold on. Give me one sec. I don't know if everyone can see it.
Please don't use the chat function while we're here together in session. Just pretend it's not there. Is it not possible to take that image and make it the only thing on the screen?
That's what I'm trying to do, but I can't find that option.
What if we pin that? What happens if we pin that?
Yeah, it's pinned. So that image is pinned. Yeah, I think.
Would it help if I sent you another copy of that image?
No, I have it. I have it. I'm just trying to. It's pinned. Everyone should be able to see it.
But it's so small. That's the only problem.
Yeah. I don't know how to make it bigger.
I think we're there.
Can you see it?
Not yet, but you're but certainly in the right place. You're viewing. It says we're viewing your screen. There you are. Perfect.
Okay.
I knew you'd do it. Perfect.
Sorry, that took longer than it should have.
It's just perfect. That was just contemplation time. So everybody can see it now, yes? Good. Okay. So in the visualization, you can see clearly the beautiful white of Vajrasattva, and the Sambhogakaya ornaments that are referred to, you see here too. It's the crown with the jewels and all the jewelry and the robes of silk that he and the consort are both wearing. And they're sitting on there's a moon disk that they're sitting on. And in the inner visualization, there's also a moon disk in the heart of Vajrasattva. And on that moon disk, in Vajrasattva's heart, there is a white hung syllable. If you don't know the visualization of the symbol in the Tibetan script, I'm sorry, I didn't request ahead of time to have that available, but you can also simply see the word hung, H-U-M or H-U-N-G, vertical, not written across the page horizontally the way we'd read it normally, but vertical. It's standing upright on the moon disk in Vajrasattva's heart. And around that moon disk in Vajrasattva's heart circles the mantra Om Vajrasattva Hum. And that's the short mantra, and the 100-syllable mantra Om Vajrasattva Samaya. So as the mantra is circling around the hung in Vajrasattva's heart, the nectar, which is bodhicitta, that is being generated by the circling of that mantra, which is going clockwise, it is descending through the subtle channels of the deity and the consort, the two deities, and it's flowing down through their bodies. And in some practices, you don't have the yabyum with consort, so then you just visualize coming down through Vajrasattva's channels, but in this case, because he's with consort, they're seated together in sexual congress and a sexual embrace, and the nectar is flowing down and exits through the point of their union and flows into your open aperture of Brahma at the crown of your head. It flows in through your crown lotus and then gradually fills your entire body with this nectar. And it comes down, yes, through your central channel, but it also fills all the subtle channels of your body. From each of the four major channels, the crown, throat, heart, and navel, extend, radiate innumerable, very, very subtle channels. They all are filling with this bodhicitta nectar, visualized not as something solid like milk, but something translucent, a radiantly luminous nectar of bodhicitta, ultimate bodhicitta. And so when it says that Dorje Sempa Vajrasattva is the color of crystal, you see it figured here in white, but it's also translucent and self-luminous. It's not opaque white, it's completely clear, like a clear quartz crystal. And the phrase, the description, peaceful, smiling, supremely radiant, youthful, with the major characteristics and minor marks, that refers to the physical characteristics of a fully enlightened Buddha. And then we spoke about the Sambhogakaya adornments. The lotus posture is legs crossed, the way you see. And Nyama, the consort, is holding in this visualization, she's holding a skull cup. And with her left hand, you can see the skull cup, and it's filled with nectar, wisdom nectar. And in her right hand, which is almost completely behind his back, she's holding the drikuk, the curved blade, curved knife, with which ego, ignorance is cut away. And so, oh yes, the height above the head is not they're not sitting on the head, but it's about 4 finger widths. If you can see my gesture, it's about 4 finger widths above the head. So it's close. It's close enough that this nectar is 4 finger widths standing, vertical, not horizontal. And so it's very intimate. This is an extremely intimate practice. They are intimate in their embrace, and they are intimate with us in that they are close. If they were physical bodies, we would feel the warmth of their bodies. In this case, they're not physical bodies. They're beatific deity bodies, and we feel the radiance. We register the radiance of their immediate, intimate presence with us. So, with the nectar flowing in through the crown opening and filling our entire body with this luminous, radiant, translucent nectar, which is ultimate bodhicitta, all damaged and broken vows, sins, and downfalls, without exception, are purified. That's a statement that isn't, oh, this is going to be purifying you. This is, with this nectar descending, all of these harms are purified. And then we recite the 100 syllable mantra. It's always referred to that way, the 100 syllables or the 100 syllable mantra. And there are many different ways of doing these visualizations. There are different practices in different lineages, or even within one lineage, more than one kind of practice of Vajrasattva. And some, and I'm going to share this because I found it very useful in this practice. I have found it quite useful at times. Sometimes when I do this practice, I simply allow this stream to flow down through repeatedly over the period of time that I'm practicing over and over again. This stream of purifying nectar and fills my body, enters my body and fills my body. But then sometimes there's another way of doing it, which I want to share with you, which is that as the stream comes down and the whole body is filled, our whole body is filled with this luminous bodhicitta nectar, our lower apertures, lower openings of our body open, and simultaneously the earth opens. And the stream of bodhicitta nectar flows out through the lower apertures, the lower openings of our body into the opening in the earth. And all of the, what we call the debtors, the karmic debtors, our karmic debtors, those to whom we owe karmic debt and who therefore have some control over our life force, meaning, in other words, those wrongs that we have done to those beings have not yet been fully purified. That's what that means. And so all this, the bodhicitta, ultimate bodhicitta nectar flows down into the earth, and all the beings that we have harmed in any way receive this nectar, this bodhicitta, as the ultimate fulfillment of their needs and aspirations and desires. And we are fully cleared of all of our debts, all of the karmic debts that we owe, fully, completely cleared. And then the earth closes, and the lower apertures, the lower openings of our body close, and the nectar is continuously all this time streaming down. And then the body fills up from the base, and we fill up like a vase, like a vase, a beautiful vase, transparent, translucent, and the nectar fills us, and our bodies become like what we see here, just perfectly pure. And then, so in the practice, it says, all sins, obscurations, and breakage of vows are purified, imagining that one's body and mind are pervaded by stainless bliss. So when we're filled with this nectar, whether we do the short visualization or the long, we are pervaded by stainless bliss. This is the outer manner of purification of obscurations. And I'm going to come back, their outer, inner, and secret manner. I'll speak to that. And I also want to give you the information about the four powers. But first, I want to go through this entire visualization with you. And so at this point, when we have, whether we do the visualization with the earth opening or whether we simply do the visualization with the nectar filling us, at this point, we are pervaded by stainless bliss. And then at that point, with fierce yearning devotion, we make confession with regret and remorse. This is the first opponent power, or the first of the four powers, regret, with confession and remorse. And we call out to Vajrasattva, protector, through unknowing and ignorance, I've transgressed and damaged my samaya vows. Teacher, protector, grant me refuge, O Lord, holder of the Vajra, who is the very nature of great compassion, Lord of all beings, I take refuge in you. And then all the samaya vows, samaya meaning our vows of honor, our words of honor with our lama, with whoever is the being with whom we feel the strong devotion, like for some people it's Tara, for others it may be Vajrasattva. In this practice, it's Vajrasattva for us. So we see that all of those vows and commitments and words of honor that we've damaged or broken or left fallow, we're repenting, we're giving regret for them and confessing them. The confession is really important. And then here we're beseeching, please purify and cleanse. And I'll come back to the confession when I speak a little bit more about the four powers. So after we have prayed in this way, beseeching the purification, the forgiveness of all wrongs, Vajrasattva with the pleasantly smiling face says, child of noble family, all of your sins, obscurations, faults, and downfalls are purified. This is the point at which we recognize and accept that purification. And this is release. This is a moment of release. We're no longer clinging to them. We're no longer clinging to the wrongs we've done. We're willing to let them go now because we've given them to Vajrasattva for purification. And then it says, imagine that absolution is granted. Absolution meaning forgiveness and cleansing. So this is how we can release our attachment to them. Our grasping even to our wrongs is still grasping, and it keeps us caught in them. So this is the point at which the release can occur. And all sins and obscurations purified, one's body becomes like a crystal globe. So we become then like Vajrasattva, our own body just filled with this translucent, self-luminous nectar. And then Vajrasattva melts into white light. Again, but not white like milk, but white like purity, the purity, unstained, stainless and unstained, but translucent. White light mingling with self phenomena means that Vajrasattva melts into this pure, luminous light, and it then becomes one with our body, with our being. And that's what's meant by self phenomena, our appearance, all of our senses, all of our every aspect of our physical existence. And now we become the form of Vajrasattva. We ourselves now become Vajrasattva. And then the instruction is regard all phenomenal existence as the display of infinite purity, which now it is. And in some forms of the visualization, when the mantra is circling around the hung on the lotus seat in the heart of the deity, rays of light are extending out, radiating out infinitely into space and touching all sentient beings with that same light that we have experienced. And at the point that they are touched by that light, they themselves also become Vajrasattva. So in that visualization, which you're free to include with this practice, in that visualization, the entire universe is filled, masked with forms of Vajrasattva, small and large, and all radiating this beautiful luminosity of perfect bodhicitta. And then the instruction is regard all phenomenal existence as a display of infinite purity. So that's a way of visualizing the display of infinite purity, to see all beings have been transformed into bodhisattva, into Vajrasattva. So at this point, we recite the second mantra. There are two mantras in this practice, the 100-syllable mantra, and then Om Vajrasattva Hum, which is referred to as either the 6-syllable mantra or the quintessential mantra. There is another 6-syllable mantra, Om Pan Mani Padme Hum, but this is the 6-syllable mantra here in the Vajrasattva practice, or the quintessential mantra, meaning that this mantra, this short mantra, is the quintessence of the Vajrasattva practice and its bestowal of the blessings of purification. And then Vajrasattva, who's been sitting just above the crown of our heads, dissolves completely into us. And we also become Vajrasattva. So the play of the deity mantra and Dharma's true nature, really all appearances, sounds, and thoughts become that threefold display of deity mantra and Dharma's true nature. And this is the inner manner of purification. And then at the end, finally, even the conceptualization of deity and mantra dissolves into luminous clarity, pure from the beginning. Awareness, voidness is the real meaning of deity, of seeing the self face of Vajrasattva. And this is the secret, unsurpassable manner of the purification of obscurations. And at this point, we simply rest in that state. You don't need to continue the visualization at that point. You already are seated as Vajrasattva, and we remain in that state, just in whatever arises in the mind, simply is arising in the mind of Vajrasattva. So it is part of the primordial purity display. Whatever sensations of body occur, they are part of the luminous display of primordial purity. That is the essence of Vajrasattva. So those are the basic instructions for practice. We can talk about them a bit. Let me say that the second practice, the very short practice, I hope you've all downloaded the practices themselves. They're on the website for you. The second practice, the visualization is essentially the same. As you'll remember, it says above one's head is Vajrasattva, inseparable from the Lama. This highlights something that's very important for us in this practice, that we recognize, and with all deity practice, actually, but in this moment it's Vajrasattva, we recognize Vajrasattva's form is the way it looks in the visualization. And there are many different pictures. You can go online. You can Google Vajrasattva with consort images, and you'll find many, many beautiful depictions. This is the one I chose for us for today. It's most like what I experienced when I was younger. And the form is Vajrasattva, but know that this is also the essence of your Lama. And sometimes when I'm practicing, I'm seeing Gar Rinpoche's face right here in the face of Vajrasattva. You can see your Lama, whoever that is, or your principal teacher, man or woman, doesn't matter. That Lama, that one you are relying upon, is the essence of the Vajrasattva in whom you're taking refuge and upon whom you're relying in this practice. And the rest of the practice, in the short practice, the one-page practice, is the same in its essence. In fact, in one line it says, "Thus, with the visualization of the nectar descending and purifying, recite the 100 syllables, and then recite the 6 syllables," and so on. This is simply an unelaborated form of the more elaborated practice that you have now received instructions for. And you can do either one or both. They're the same practice. They're from the same master, himself a great enlightened being, and they're the same practice. One is a shorter version, the other is a longer version. The inner visualization, the secret visualization, is the same for both. So you've now received the lung and the tree, the transmission of the text and the explication of the text. What this means is you are now empowered to practice this practice. This does not require an external empowerment given by the Lama in the ceremonial way that we receive empowerment sometimes. Rinpoche sometimes, and the Samaya is simply, as Rinpoche says often when he gives empowerments, he says the Samaya is love, the commitment is love. Why is that? It's because infinite love, love without limits, limitless love, is the very essence of Dharma. It's the very essence of reality. It's the radiance of the true nature, as we spoke of before. Let me read you something that, hold on, here it is. This is something I wrote for you the other day when I was preparing for this. All the aspirations, intentions, rituals, ceremonies, practices of aspiration and purification rely on this base. The ground is one, open, unimpeded, all-pervading, the primordial purity. All appearances and experiences are of and inseparable from this truth. The natural radiance, essence of this nature is love, open, unimpeded, all-pervading, radiant primordial presence. Everything that is done in this world of knowable things is done by Buddha. All activity in the world is compassion, the activity of the Buddha, and its nature is open, unimpeded, all-pervading, radiant, and pure. So that's a way of saying the base for all of our aspirations, intentions, rituals, ceremonies, practices of aspiration and purification rely on this base. This is the Trikaya. These are the three kayas of the Buddha: Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya, simply expressed in a different way. So I'd love for us to be able to move directly into practice, but I want to say something first about, and I want to give you a chance to ask any questions you have to elucidate the practice before we start. But the four powers, or the four opponent powers on which purification depends, are these: regret or remorse or release for the actions that we have committed, intended to commit, or tried to commit that cause harm in any way. When we're cataloging and confessing, confession is a very important part of this. We need to be able to recognize the wrongs, and we need to be able to take ownership of them and then let them go. Ownership meaning acknowledging, yes, I did this. Yes, I regret now that I've done it. And then in another step, we say, and yes, I will not do this again. So we can find ourselves regretting our prior actions because we see that they've harmed others. So that is based on compassion for others, that we would resolve not to do that again and really express, confess, and respect, and express our regret, our sorrow that we have done that. And there's a somewhat deeper form of regret, which is regret, oh, I put one more nail into my own karmic coffin in a way. I mean, I have once again, this is like what Shannon asked about earlier, I continue to take the sugar over and over again. So each time we commit a wrong, it strengthens the tendency toward that action or intention or thought. Each time we purify, it loosens that connection between us and that motivation. That's really a significant point to be aware of. Because each time a wrong is committed, it increases the propensity to commit it again. And each time it's purified, that intention or that tendency is weakened. So regret and remorse, or sometimes called repentance, and so that acknowledgement is a way of releasing its hold on us and our grasping to it. The second of the four powers is called reliance. It's the actual reliance is on the power of that in which we're taking refuge, which in our case here is Vajrasattva. So we're relying on this, it's called the object, but it's not object in the sense that we usually use the term. We're relying upon Vajrasattva as our focus, is the focal point. We're relying on Vajrasattva to purify our obscurations, which is the same thing as saying to help us purify our obscurations, because without the intention to do so ourselves, we wouldn't even turn to a deity or a lama to help us with it. So our intention to purify is really the motive force here. So that's called reliance. And then the third power is remedy or antidote. And that's what we do in order to actually purify or to provide an antidote to the negativity that we seeded in the ground of our mind. In this case, the antidote or the remedy is the practice of Vajrasattva, but it might include anything else too. That's a virtuous practice that helps the mind stabilize in what is true rather than continue to cavort and wallow in what is false. So remedy or antidote is what actively counteracts the amassed force of the negative accumulations. The fourth of the four powers is resolve, the resolution not to create more negative karma, even at the risk of one's life. That's a really very powerful, serious commitment. But the power of resolve, even with small negativities, and the power of resolve with a great negativity, is the same power of resolve. It's indestructible determination. It has the quality of the Vajra, adamantine, diamond-like, indestructible. So we want to generate that kind of resolve. Sometimes in my case, I was aware early on of the power of this practice and the way in which it lightened my mind first, and then it lightened the habitual tendencies. I wasn't, though, aware of the necessity of the fourth power of resolve until quite late in life, when I recognized, and some other time I'll speak about this in a more personal, detailed way if anybody wants me to, but I became aware of a tendency that I gave form to, that I acted out in my life as a young person, very young, and also into adulthood, that was really harmful. And I'd never thought of it that way. It was something I had seen, but I hadn't thought of it that way. And many of the things that we do that are harmful are also conventionally just part of the repertoire of human behavior. But when we see that they are repetitively in our system and repetitively in our field of expression, and that they are in fact harmful, we can take action. And I realized that this particular tendency with its harmful expressions because I had continued to be willing to do this, even though I'd seen it as negative, I began to see that it was almost like evil in me. Not that I'm an evil person, but evil can be in us with our intentions. It's a word I almost never use, but it came to me in that moment when I really was looking at this pattern, and I saw that it had like an insinuating energy that is like a serpent, this kind of movement, that it insinuated itself into actions and thoughts and behaviors that didn't look that bad, but they had a really negative root. And what I saw in that moment, I'm speaking of this in order to clarify what it means to say never again. I saw in that moment that this was going to repeat lifetime after lifetime, because it had been repeating lifetime after lifetime. I actually saw, and this is possible for us to see, I actually saw that I had come in with that seed. This wasn't something that happened in this lifetime. I came in with that propensity. I actually experienced seeing that and recognizing what it was. And so I remember I just want to share this much in a personal way because I think it's we don't usually talk about the moments of great desperation on the spiritual path. We refer to them, but we don't usually say, and here's what it was like. But what it was like for me in that moment was recognizing that even though in conventional terms this might not have looked like such a terrible thing, I recognized the seed in the mind was really bad. It was really bad. It was to cause harm with some intent. And I remember going into my little practice place. I had a little place that was marked off by screens, room screens like the one behind me and so on. It was like a little temple. It was just filled with books and all of my spiritual paraphernalia and regalia. Everything was there with this tiny little space. So I went into my little space capsule, my little spiritual capsule, and I can't get up relief. I mean, I have very bad injuries to my shoulders, so it's very hard to get down and up in a prostration position anymore. But I went down and I thought, I don't care if I ever get up again. This is not going to worry. I was down, face on the floor, and imploring the Lama to help me with this. And I actually made the vow that I would never again generate that intention. And if I did, I would uproot it in the instant. And I would never again follow that line of action or speech in my life, in this lifetime, and that I was choosing to extirpate the root, not just the behavior pattern or the thought pattern, but the root of that wrong. I made a commitment never again to allow that seed to root or to grow in my continuum. And I stayed on the ground for quite a while. And it ended. I had to stay alert to recognize when the predisposition began to stir, but because I have a strong, clear awareness practice, in seeing that, it was able to dissolve in the moment of recognition. So it's done. It's done. So I'm telling you this in order to say, we can do this. If I can do this, you can do this. And this was with a pattern that had been there lifetimes, I'm certain, lifetimes, and truly harmful. And I'm very happy that I can confess this to you, my friends, my Dharma friends. We're all here together. We're all extended Sangha. So what is mine is yours. What is yours is mine. And I'm sharing this to say, not I'm an evil person like you. You're not evil. I'm not evil. But evil can take root in us because of unknowing, because of our ignorance, because we're riddled with self-grasping. It's the basis for samsara. So we have that. And so that it creates fertile ground for all kinds of negative seeds to be planted, and the garden could grow up and eventually choke us. So I'm very glad that I was able to speak of that, because the kind of resolve that I describe as adamantine, diamond-like, indestructible resolve, that's what we need. And even the little things that we see that aren't of the kind of enormity of what I'm describing, the little things, like maybe a tendency to speak harshly or whatever, that's not a little thing. It betrays the reality of one's having harshness in one's mind towards others. So what seems little, it has roots that go down deep. Do you know what we see as a little thing in this lifetime? If we follow the root, we'll find something that is worth pulling up at the root. And then do so. And go back and do it over and over again until it's pulled up, till it's uprooted. That's the power of clear awareness that lets us see the mind and its tricks and its hidden nooks and crannies. And then because we have love, because we are bodhisattvas with a commitment to loving all beings without distinction or without limit, then we act to purify our own continuum so that we can help others do the same. so that we no longer harm, but that we're here really, truly to help liberate all. So those are the four powers, and it's taught that these four powers need to come into play for the purification to be complete. So we have 5 minutes here before we're going to take a break. So let me take any questions that can be addressed in, let's say, 10 minutes. I'm going to ask for a dispensation from my friend Saul over here. Let us have 10 minutes, okay? And let me take questions that explicate the text, that go to what we are going to be practicing, because when we come back, we're just going to practice Vajrasattva. Okay?
Okay.
But yes, Patty?
Okay, you can unmute yourself.
Hi there. So when doing this practice, do we ever bring to mind the specific pattern we want to purify?
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Thank you.
Definitely, yeah. And in terms of confession, you can't possibly think of or remember all the wrongs you've done in all your lifetimes, right? Not possible. So, but the tendencies that we have are visible to us if we look. All we have to do is look into the mind. We'll see the tendencies and look at our behaviors and so on and our life experiences. We'll get a pretty good picture of what some of the rough tendencies are. And so we can address that in terms of confession by confessing on behalf of ourselves and all other beings this particular tendency to wrong. This particular tendency or this particular group of kind of confusions, so on. So we can confess, say you see that you've done that in this lifetime, but if somebody says, as I'm saying, confess for all your lifetimes, then make a big basket and confess everything that's in that basket for all your lifetimes, and make that explicit and for all beings. Okay? And Claire, you had your hand up next. I don't, anything that's on the chat, I'm ignoring. I've been mentioning this from time to time. We're not chatting during this. So you can always get in touch with me afterwards.
Yeah,
yes,
Claire's on mute. Oh, we just lost her.
Sorry?
And we can confess for self-wronging we've done to ourselves as well, not just for others.
Yes. Yeah, we are sentient beings. That actually touches something I wanted to just speak to and I'll do it very briefly because our time is short now. But there's no place here for clinging to how bad we are because we've done this or that, or because we have this kind of thought tendency or whatever. There's no place for this because that's a form of grasping. And it's useful to just register for a moment without going into detail, but we can talk about it in detail some other time. It's useful to register that the difference between shame and guilt. And there's another word in here. Guilt has aversion in it, and shame can also have aversion in it. Guilt fixates us in place. It stops our forward movement. Look at this gesture. This is the gesture of guilt. I'm beating myself over the back for what I've done. It keeps you turned in this direction. You can't go forward. Shame also has a tendency to make us feel that in our essence, we're not okay. There's something wrong with us in essence. And Milarepa, I think most of you have heard of our friend Milarepa, our wonderful lineage master. He was a mass murderer, and he attained enlightenment in one lifetime. the holy texts don't use the term mass murderer, but in our culture, we know what it means. He attained enlightenment in one lifetime, and the story of his path is very powerful and wonderful to read. I highly recommend it. And he said, and he should know, the reason I'm telling you about his life is that little bit. He should know whereof he speaks when he says, in our school, we are not ashamed of ourselves. In our school, we are not ashamed of ourselves. I'm going to say it one more time. In our school, we are not ashamed of ourselves. And Garchen Rinpoche, when he speaks of this, he says there's only one thing to be ashamed of, not generating bodhicitta. Meaning, the only thing to be ashamed of is not learning how to and acting to love. Okay? Yes. Who's next? So?
Diane,
Diane?
if you can unmute.
Yeah, so let me put my video on.
Hello?
Sorry. Just one sec.
Yeah, you can just ask your question. You can put your video on if you want or not.
Okay, well, I can't. It said it won't let me. Anyhow, hello, thank you for the wonderful teaching. And I have a question about like transgressions, or when I do Vajrasattva, I think of everything I'm doing wrong. I mean, like knowingly or unknowingly. For example, using a cell phone, even though we know it's horrible for the people, harvesting the lithium, and it's child slavery. So things that, like, we're promising not to do it again, but I'm still going to use my cell phone, and I'm still going to walk outside, even though I'm killing insects when I walk. I'm still going to drive a car. So I want to confess things that, like, have a bad effect on others, but at the same time, those type of things, we live in a world that I am going to keep living and do it again. So it's kind of opposite of your story,
Well, maybe, but let me just say, we are in the world. We can't even take a breath without killing beings.
Right.
So this is interdependence that we're talking about when we start to touch this topic. We're living with and because of many others. And they're living with and because of us, meaning our life force and theirs are intertwined, interdependent. If you know you're going to keep using the cell phone, what I do in cases like this, I dedicate my activities. The first thing every morning, I dedicate all my activities that day of body, speech, and mind for the liberation of suffering and its causes for all beings. And at the end of the day, I review what I have done and not done that's in accord with that aspiration. And then I replay at least one thing that has not been in accord.
Oh, wow.
So the slate is clean.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, that's very helpful practice. That can be sent to you. If you send me an email, I can send you that practice. Email me at the Garchen Institute address requesting it be forwarded. So acknowledging interdependence is the same thing as acknowledging emptiness. And acknowledging emptiness is acknowledging and praising primordial purity. So I think it's good. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
I think we have time to take maybe, it's only 3:04. We're good. Let's have one more question at least.
Okay, Graham, if you can unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hi.
I had a question about the first practice. So we've done the 100-syllable mantra and then recited the prayers. And Vajrasattva dissolves into us. But then it says at the end, it says the short Vajrasattva mantra. But then, so are we doing that as ourselves as Vajrasattva then?
You mean when we recite the 6-syllable mantra?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So it says the instruction comes once more. Vajrasattva shimmeringly melts into the form of white light, mingling with self phenomena, which become the form of Vajrasattva. So at the point that we're doing the Vajrasattva, Om Vajrasattva Hung, Om Vajrasattva Hung, we are Vajrasattva.
Okay, great, got you. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a good question.
Just so on the short one, it's not that way, is it? It's all descending with both mantras, all descending nectars with both mantras.
I didn't hear a question.
So the short practice is different in the respect that we both the 100-syllable mantra and the 6-syllable mantra involve the descent of nectar.
Okay. Yes. Yes. It says in the short practice, recite the 6-syllable mantra as much as one can, and then Vajrasattva melts into light and becomes one with one's own perceptions. And you can do that either way. But when I do the short practice, I follow that order of things.
Okay, great. That's clarified it for me. Thank you.
I'm glad the question was clarifying. Thank you. Good. And maybe there's one other hand up, I see.
Yeah. AC, if you can unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I guess so. Let me take off my Bluetooth. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering, what's the difference between equanimity and purification? And I was also, you probably answered this question, but if you haven't, why do we need to purify our kleshas? I asked this once to my Lama, and he basically said, I said, why can't you just become a Buddha using pure awareness? You know, why do you have to purify your kleshas? And he said that you have to purify your kleshas because if you don't, then you're like a Shavaka or Pracheka Buddha. You'll have to return to the karmic wheel of life eventually. If you purify your kleshas along with developing pure awareness, then you're a non-returner if you choose to be. But I really wanted to know what's the difference between equanimity and purification, and also too, what's the importance of purification?
Well, first of all, let me touch why do we need to purify our kleshas? That lama has been trained traditionally, and I don't have that kind of training that the Tibetan lamas have in that traditional way. So I would never have known to answer what he said. What I would have said to you is, well, if you don't purify your kleshas, it's going to be a while before you see the clear light awareness and recognize it consistently, right? So those two things go hand in hand. In our actual practice, in our actual human lives, if we're riddled with, attachment and aversion and confusion, though the clear light is always there in front of us at all moments and within us and all around us, the recognition of it is not going to be speeding along, let's just say, or if it is speeding along, it will be scattered. It won't be consistent. It'll be hard to maintain. So that's one thing. And then the other question was what? I've already forgotten the other question. Sorry.
The similarities.
Oh, yeah, the difference between
equanimity and purification.
Well, equanimity means it means seeing all things as manifestations of the pure nature of primordial purity. So there isn't that dualistic breaking up of perception and understanding. Purification is the process by which what obscures our ability to have that kind of universal, limitless love and compassion, the obscurations are cleared away. So there's a natural process that I spoke to earlier today by which.
But you can't, can you clear them away without equanimity? I'm trying to think about how you could do that, because once the klesha arises, say like anger, you have to respond to it with non-attachment, and then you can purify it. That's what I think.
I don't want to take up a lot of time with this, but I would say that once you see the uprising or the beginning of manifestation of aversion or anger, if you can see that and rest in stability of recognizing it, it is free to self-liberate. And at that point, the purification.
So it self-liberates on its own.
That's what's referred to in the Dzogchen as liberating in its own space.
Okay.
Yeah. Recognition and liberation are simultaneous. When you directly recognize the true nature moment, you are in that instant, your mind and mind of Buddha, same. But normally it's a glimpse, and then there's passage of time and so on, and maybe another glimpse. The stabilization is brought about through bodhicitta. And the bodhicitta that we practice as relative bodhicitta is the same bodhicitta that is ultimate bodhicitta, which is Buddhahood, which is the fully awakened, fully enlightened mind. But it's a reflection of that in our own temporal space. Okay.
Are you saying that bodhicitta helps us to achieve equanimity as a klesha arises?
Bodhicitta does help you achieve equanimity and everything else you're longing for. Bodhicitta is really it's really the whole thing. That's why I said at the beginning, purify based on love. Bodhicitta, relative bodhicitta is relative love, meaning it's partialistic, it's based in personality and so on, but it's a reflection of ultimate bodhicitta. And ultimate bodhicitta is enlightenment itself, is what we call the ultimate state. Okay? We need to stop now.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I love these questions. I could sit with you folks all day long and just do this. That'd be great. But we're going to practice. So let's take an extremely short break this time, come back, and we're going to practice the long form. Okay?
Om Benzer Sato Samaya Manu Palaya Benzer Sato Tino Pa Tichan Redo Me Bawa Suda Kayo Me Bawa Supo Chayo Me Bawa Anurato Me Bawa Sarva Sede Me Drayeta Sarva karma sujame citan hirayam koroho. Ha ho bangave sarva tatangata benza mame benza benza bhava maha samaya sato. Om benza sato samaya manu palaya Benzer Sato Tino Pa Tichan Redo Me Bawa Suda Kayo Me Bawa Supo Chayo Me Bawa Anurato Me Bawa Sarva Sede Me Drayeta Sarva Karma Sujame Citan Hirayam Koroho Ahaho Bangave Sarva Tathangata Benza Mame Menza Benza Bhava Maha Samaya Sato Om Benza Sato Samaya Manu Palaya Benza Sato Tino Pati Chandro Me Bhava Sudha Kayo Me Bhava Supo Chayo Me Bhava Anurato Me Bhava Sarva Siddhe Me Drayata Sarva Karma Sutta Me Citan Hirayam Kuro Ahaho Bangave Sarva Tathangata Benza Mame Menza Benza Bhava Maha Samaya Sato Om Benza Sato Samaya Manu Palaya Benza Sato Tino Pati Chandro Me Bhava Sudha Kayo Me Bhava Supo Chayo Me Bhava Anurato Me Bhava Sarva Siddhe Me Drayata Sarva Karma Sutta Me Citan Hirayam Kuro Ahaho Bangave Sarva Tathangata Benza Mame Menza Benza Bhava Maha Samaya Sato Om Benza Sato Samaya Manu Palaya Benza Sato Tino Pati Chandro Me Bhava Sudha Kayo Me Bhava Supo Chayo Me Bhava Anurato Me Bhava Sarva Siddhe Me Drayata Sarva Karma Sutta Me Citan Hirayam Kuro Ahaho Bangave Sarva Tathangata Benza Mame Menza Benza Bhava Maha Samaya Sato Om Benza Sato Samaya Manu Palaya Benza Sato Tino Pati Chandro Me Bhava Sudha Kayo Me Bhava Supo Chayo Me Bhava Anurato Me Bhava Sarva Siddhe Me Drayata Sarva Karma Sutta Me Citan Hirayam Kuro Ahaho Bangave Sarva Tathangata Benza Mame Menza Benza Bhava Maha Samaya Sato Om Benza Sato Samaya Manu Palaya Benza Sato Tino Pati Chandro Me Bhava Sudha Kayo Me Bhava Supo Chayo Me Bhava Anurato Me Bhava Sarva Siddhe Me Drayata Sarva Karma Sutta Me Citan Hirayam Kuro Ahaho Bangave Sarva Tathangata Benza Mame Menza Benza Bhava Maha Samaya Sato Om Benza Sato Samaya Manu Palaya Benza Sato Tino Pati Chandro Me Bhava Sudha Kayo Me Bhava Supo Chayo Me Bhava Anurato Me Bhava Sarva Siddhe Me Drayata Sarva Karma Sutta Me Citan Hirayam Kuro
Okay, we're back.
Mm-hmm. I'm just taking a look at the gallery so I can see the faces of the beautiful people. Tori. Oh. Hi. Oh. Mm. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. So now, please prepare yourselves to practice. We'll do the long form. I will read it aloud to you slowly so that you can experience the visualization without having to work too hard. Just let it happen. And a question was raised earlier about, well, what if you kind of lose your attention, and you kind of fade off or lose your focus or make a mistake or whatever. This is the ultimate practice of forgiveness, absolution, and reliance upon the primordial purity from which we are never separate. So please just carry on. If you stop to examine your problem while you're in the middle of the practice, that's not practice, that's rumination. We are not cattle. So no ruminating, just practicing. Okay. So I will start and read it from the beginning, the same way I read it when I transmitted, and then you just sit there and sink into the practice. I'll go quite slowly so that there's plenty of space, so it's spacious practice. Okay. I love you so much. I'm so glad we're all here together. Recitation of the preliminary practice of the profound secret heart essence of the Dakini, called Chariot of the Path of Union. The meditation and recitation of Vajrasattva to purify unfavorable circumstances, sins, and obscurations. Visualize the root teacher, that's your Lama, in the form of Vajrasattva and consort, Niyama, as actually sitting in union above the crown of your head. Generating fierce remorse and repentance for previous sins. From now on, vow never to repeat them, even at the cost of one's life. Think that by the continuous stream of bodhicitta nectar coming from the mantra, circling around the Bona on the moon disk in Vajrasattva's heart, all your sins, obscurations, faults, and downfalls without remainder become purified. Keeping in mind the essential points of the four powers: regret, reliance, remedy, and resolve. Refreshing the visualization above the crown of my head on a lotus and moon seat is the teacher, Vajrasattva, the color of crystal, peaceful, smiling, supremely radiant, youthful, with the major characteristics and minor marks of a fully enlightened Buddha. Right hand holding the gold vajra of skillful means. Left hand holding the silver bell of wisdom. Completely adorned with the Sambhogakaya ornaments and silks. Sitting in lotus posture, embracing his consort, Nyama, in his lap, who holds the curved blade and skull cup of wisdom nectar. They are an intimate embrace, giving rise to the nectar of bodhicitta. From the mantra garland around the hum on the moon disk in his heart, bodhicitta nectar streams down through the point of their union. Entering through my aperture of Brahma, filling my entire body, radiating out through all the subtle channels of the body, from the crown chakra, the throat chakra, the heart chakra, the navel chakra. The whole body fills with this nectar, perfect nectar of bodhicitta. Purifying all damaged and broken vows, all one's sins and downfalls without exception are completely purified. And now we recite the 100-syllable mantra while holding this visualization, but we don't hold it rigidly. We see certain elements of the visualization more clearly than others, and then maybe the others come into more focus. We feel or register in our body experience some of the movement of the nectar, and then perhaps we see instead just the radiating light from his beauteous body. So the nectar of bodhicitta streaming down is truly entering through our crown and filling our body. And we are in intimate connection now with Vajrasattva and his consort. And the visualization is coming alive for us in whatever way it is, and it's all good. And those of you who know the mantra, recite with me. And those who don't know it, if you want to just hear it and let it fill you and let it start to imbue your consciousness, that's good. And if you've got the document, feel free to take the document and take a look at it and recite together. So we'll recite a certain number of times. I'll start off fairly slowly and then I'll move to a more rapid recitation. But just let it fill you. This is how the body is receiving the white, luminous nectar. and being filled by it, by the continuous stream of nectar, along with the circling mantra that is radiating light throughout all space, purifying the sins and obscurations and wrongs of all beings, and specifically you in this moment. Om Vishasatu Samayam Anupalayam Vishasatu Tenupa Tishtridrido Me Bawa Suktokayo Me Bawa Supokayo Me Bawa Anurakto Me Bawa Sarva Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sarva Karma Sutsama Sitam Shilyam Kuruhum Ha 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 Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vijramami Munsa Vijri Bawa Maha Samaya Sato Om Beja Sato Samaya Manupalaya Beja Sato Tenupa Tishdrino Mebawa Sutokayo Mebawa Supokayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sarva Karma Sutsame Sitam Shiryam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagawan Tathagata Vijramame Munsa Vijri Bhava Mahasamaya Sato Om Vijra Sato Samaya Manupalaya Vijra Sato Tenopa Tishtredrido Me Bhava Yome Bhava Supoka Yome Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sarva Karma Sutsama Sitam Shiryam Kuruhum Ahahahahom Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vijrama Mimunta Vijri Bhava Mahasamaya Om Vijra Sato Samaya Manupalaya Vijra Sato Tenopa Tishtredrido Me Bhava Sutokayo Me Bhava Supokayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sarva Karma Sitam Shiryam Kuruhum Ha 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 Hom Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vijrama Mimutsa Vijri Bhava Maha Sato Om Vijra Sato Samaya Manupalaya Vijra Sato Tenopa Tishtradrido Me Bhava Sutopayo Sutopayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sarva Karma Sutsama Sitam Shiryam Kuruhum Ha 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 Hom Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vijrama Mimuts Sri Bhava Mahasamaya Sato Om Vijra Sato Samaya Manupalaya Vijra Sato Tenopa Tishtradrido Me Bhava Sutokayo Me Bhava Supokayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sarva Karma Me Sitam Shiryam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vijrama Mimunsa Vijri Bhava Mahasamaya Sato Om Vijra Sato Samaya Manupalaya Vijra Sato Tenopa Tishtradrido Me Bhava Sutokayo Me Bhava Supokayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sarva Karma Sutsama Sitam Shiryam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vijrama Mimuts Vijri Bhava Mahasamaya Sato Om Vijra Sato Samaya Manupalaya Vijra Sato Tenopa Istradrido Me Bhava Sutokayo Me Bhava Supokayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Prayatsa Sarva Karma Sutsame Sitam Shiryam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vijrama Mimunsa Vijri Bhava Maha Samaya Sato Om Vijra Sato Samaya Manupalaya Vijra Tishtradrido Me Bhava Sutokayo Me Bhava Supokayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sutame Sitam Shiryam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vijrama Mimutsa Vijri Bhava Maha Sato Om Vijra Sato Samaya Manupalaya Vijra Sato Tenopa Tishtradrido Me Bhava Sutokayo Me Bhava Yome Bhava, Anurakta Me Bhava, Sarva Siddhi Me Prayatsa, Sarva Karma Sutta Me Citam Shiriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ha. Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vijramami Mutsa Vijri Bhava Mahasamaya Sato Vijri Sato Samaya Vijri Sato Tenupa Tishuturu Me Bhava Sutokaya Me Bhava Supakaya Me Bhava Anurakta Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sarva Karma Sutta Me Citam Shrim Kuru Ha Ha Ha. Sarva Tathagata Vijramami Mutsa Vijri Bhava Mahasamaya Sato Vijri Sato Samaya Manupalaya Vijri Sato Tenupa Me Bhava Sutokaya Me Bhava Supakaya Me Bhava Anurakta Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sarva Karma Sutta Me Citam Shrim Kuru Ha 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 Ha. Sarva Tathagata Vijramami Mutsa Vijri Bhava Mahasamaya Sato Vijri Sato Samaya Manupalaya Vijri Sato Tenupa Tishvidu Me Bhava Sutokaya Me Bhava Supakaya Me Bhava Bhagavan Sarvata Tagata Vijramami Mutsa Vijri Bhava Samaya Sato Vijri Sato Samaya Manupalaya Vijri Sato Tenupa Sutokaya Me Bhava Supakaya Me Bhava Anurakta Me Bhava Samasiddhi Me Prayatsa Sarvakarma Sutta Citam Shiriyam Kuruvan Ha 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 Bhagavan Sarvata Tagata Vijri Bhava Mahasamaya Sato Vijri Sato Samaya Manupalaya Vijri Sato Tenupa Teshvara Me Bhava Sutokaya Me Bhava Supakaya Me Bhava Anurakta Me Bhava Samasiddhi Me Prayatsa Sarvakarma Sutta Citam Allah Bhagavan Sarvata Tagata Vijayana Savijay Bhava Samaya Samataya Vijayata Samaya Manapalaya Vijayata Tenupa Tishvara Me Bhava Sutokaya Me Bhava Supakaya Me Bhava Karma Sutama Citam Shiriyam Kuruha Bhagavan Sarvata Tagata Vijayana Samato Then one's body becomes fully filled with the nectar, completely luminous, translucent white. And having become completely filled by the continuous stream of nectar, all sins, obscurations, and all breakage of vows are purified. Imagining that your body and mind are pervaded by stainless bliss is the outer manner of purification of obscurations. Finally, with fierce yearning devotion, protector, through unknowing and ignorance, I have transgressed and damaged my Samaya vows. Teacher, protector, grant me refuge. O Lord, holder of the Vajra, who is the very nature of great compassion, Lord of all beings, I take refuge in you. All Samaya vows of body, speech, and mind, root and branch, which I have damaged and broken, I repent and confess. All accumulations of defilements, obscurations, faults, downfalls, and stains, I beseech you to purify and cleanse. Vajrasattva, with a pleasantly smiling face, says, child of noble family, all of your sins, obscurations, faults, and downfalls are purified. Imagine, sense, and know that absolution is granted, forgiveness, and now release. All sins and obscurations purified. Your body becomes like a crystal globe. Vajrasattva shimmeringly melts into the form of white light, translucent, radiant, self-luminous, mingling with self-phenomena, which become the form of Vajrasattva. Regard all phenomenal existence as the display of infinite purity. Thus, Vajrasattva on the crown of one's head dissolves into one. You become Vajrasattva. With the Hung in your Vajrasattva heart, light radiating out through the universe, through all of space, through all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as an offering. And when the light touches all sentient beings, they too become Vajrasattva. Regarding appearances, sounds, and thought as the play of deity, mantra, and dharma's true nature, recite the quintessential mantra, Om Vajrasattva Hum. And this is the inner manner of purification of obscurations. Om Vajrasattva Hum, 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 Vajrasattva Hum. Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum. Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum. Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum. Om Vajrasattva Hum, 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 Om Vajrasattva Hum. Om Vajrasattva Hum, Vajrasattva Hum, Vajrasattva Hum, Vajrasattva Hum, Vajrasattva Hum, Om Now even the conceptualization of deity and mantra dissolves into luminous clarity, pure from the beginning. Awareness, voidness, is the real meaning of seeing the self-face of Vajrasattva. This is the secret, unsurpassable manner of the purification of obscurations. Simply rest in this state. So this is a very simple practice. Very simple, very direct, very profound. Don't be afraid of it. It will bring to the surface things that need to surface. Don't be afraid of that. Just keep on practicing. Let the practice take care of you. Let Vajrasattva take care of you. He's seen it all, believe me. And the flow of the nectar is like mother's milk. When the infant cries, mother's milk lets down. Yes? Think of it that way. That's your relationship. It's that intimate and that trustworthy. Don't leave out anything when you sit with Vajrasattva. Show everything. That's the way for the help to come most strongly. Don't hold back. And these practice instructions have the simplicity of that clear light. And the more you practice, the simpler it will become, until finally, when you're reciting the mantra, it's as light as air. Just as light as air. Sometimes you'll want to recite aloud the way I began. Then other times you'll recite quieter and quieter, faster and faster. And then other times you'll recite only loud enough for your collarbone to hear you. That's good. It's your practice. Trust it. Trust yourself with it. It's self-correcting. If you make a mistake, just keep on going. And then do an extra 3 mantras at the end. This is your practice. It will come alive for you in the way that you do it. Sometimes you won't have time to sit and practice the way we just did. Sometimes all you want to do is say, help, and then visualize Vajrasattva, with or without consort. Either way is fine. And immediately your cry is both devotion and need, like the infant's cry. And he, the lion, like the lion's milk, will send down the nectar of bodhicitta for you. This is infinite love, infinitely seeing all, infinitely embracing all, infinitely containing all, infinitely pervading all. And sometimes the nectar is going to come out from your eyes like tears. Think of it as your bodhicitta nectar expressing. And remember, the essence of this practice is love. We purify based on love. We wouldn't do this just for ourselves. Right? We'll do lots of things that we wouldn't do just for ourselves. We do for for the benefit of others. So dedicate every practice for the liberation of all. And Vajrasattva practice is by its very nature that primordial purity, generating primordial purity to remind us of primordial purity. Very self-contained, eh? So, are you happy with the practice? Yes? Okay. Emma, who initially requested this practice for the benefit of all of us, is saying she's happy. So, that's good. The merit of this practice, I want us to dedicate to a man named Andrei, who died very, very recently. I just received word. So, and all acts of virtue, all acts of good, all acts generated from compassion and love are acts for the benefit of all, and they are meritorious. They generate more love. The more love with which we begin and intend, the greater the love we generate, and the greater the merit with which we step away from the practice for a moment and we dedicate that merit. This is very, very important. We Westerners don't really understand this dedication of merit thing, perhaps, but I think in the East it's much more commonly understood. And dedicating the merit is essential. It's just essential. It benefits everyone, and particularly yourself. If you generate merit and you don't dedicate it, it can evaporate. They say like a drop of water on a hot stone. If you dedicate it, then it goes to everyone. So the meritorious dedication of merit generates more merit. It's an excellent way to end. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this day with you. Thank you so, so much for coming. Thank you so much for joining all of us together in this wonderful mantra circle that we have formed. Please, please take up the practice of Vajrasattva if it suits you. If you think it might be of benefit to you, please take it up. And it's not a secret practice. It is a secret practice that's not a secret. You can tell others about this practice. I love you. I will hold you in my mind. I will hold your aspirations close in my mind. And that way we will never be parted. We will never be parted anyway, but that's an icing on the cake. Okay. I think we're actually going to end on time, but we have to do some of my favorite prayers from the closing prayers. So we're actually going to go over a little bit. So I hope you heard that, because the closing prayers and are the dedication of merit. So we're going to do that together. Where's my prayer book? Hold on. Here we go. Any of you who want these prayer books from the Garchen Institute, you just contact the Garchen Institute and order them. They'll send them to you. Okay. So there's quite a collection of them. I'm going to only choose a few. Sanandi tamcha tikani tananya pedanam pamchete jagana chimbalong tripai sipetsolet By this merit may I attain omniscience, having defeated the enemies, my wrongdoings. May I liberate all beings who are tossed in the ocean of samsara by the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Whatever virtue sentient beings possess, whatever good they have done, will do, and are doing now, whatever goodness there may be, may it permeate all beings everywhere. Glorious root guru, precious one who sits upon a lotus at my heart, hold me with kindness and grant me all accomplishments of enlightened body, speech, and mind. I pray for the excellent health of the guru. I pray that he lives a supremely long life. I pray that his activities spread far and wide. Grant blessings that I may not be separate from my guru. May the sound of the great Dharma drum liberate all sentient beings from suffering. Please remain and teach the Dharma for infinite millions of kalpas. By the blessing of the Buddhas who attained the three kayas, by the blessing of the truth of the unchanging nature of reality, and by the blessing of the undivided Sangha community, may my prayers be fulfilled according to this dedication. By the virtues accumulated in the three times by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the intrinsic root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious awakening. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind root and lineage gurus, divine assembly of yidams, assemblies of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, heroes and heroines, yogini and her assembly of dakinis, all of you, dwelling in the 10 directions, please heed me. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of attachment, hatred, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May thoughts of fame, reputation, respect, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. At the moment of death, may I not experience the suffering of being abruptly severed from this life. May I not suffer a terrible death. May I not die confused by wrong views. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind itself and in the crystal clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo. And now, long life prayers. His Holiness Tenzin Gyatso, the 14th Dalai Lama. For this realm encircled by snow-covered mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. Tenzin Gyatso, Lord Chenrezig, may you remain steadfast until the end of samsara. His Holiness Drikung Kyabgyun Chetsang Rinpoche, embodiment of the three jewels, great being who upholds and increases the teachings of the Shakyalayan, supreme are your activities of guiding others with your perfect deeds. May you, the precious Guru who accomplishes everything spontaneously, live long. His Holiness Drikung Kyabgyun Chungsang Rinpoche, holder of the teachings of Lord Drikunpa, great Lord of the Three Jewels, through the power of your peerless compassion and the Holy Dharma's peace and light, you bring relief to beings. May your life be long. His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche, the one known in the noble land as Aryadeva, emanated into the Gar clan of Eastern Tibet as Chudingpa, the heart son of Jigten Gompo. May the life of glorious Garchen remain steadfast for 100 eons. The long life prayer for His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche, composed by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Crown of the Shakyas, kind friend to strangers. The 17 great Panditas, Tilopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Gampopa, Jigten Sumgan, and their lineage heirs, please bestow good fortune and auspiciousness. Protector Amitayus, transcendent Lord who grants supreme life everlasting, stable and unchanging, and who diverts from untimely death anyone who merely hears your name or thinks of you, please bestow good fortune and auspiciousness. Living austerely in the higher training of discipline, full of compassion that is the glory of those to be tamed, devoid of all grasping, never parting from Mahamudra's natural state, Ngedun Tempe Nyima, son of the teachings, may your life remain firm. May the teachings of the great Trikungpa Ratna Shri, Master of Interdependence, omniscient Lord of Dharma, who has seen all knowable things, be upheld until the end of cyclic existence through study, practice, hearing, contemplation, and meditation. May bodhicitta, the precious and supreme mind, arise in whom it has not yet arisen. Where it has arisen, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. Now please join your mind with mine as we pray for those who have died to be hold immediately the face of Amitabha, boundless light, and to take rebirth in his pure realm, Dewachan. And the English is this: Emaho. In the center is the wondrous Buddha of boundless light. To his right is Chenrezig, the Lord of great compassion, and to his left is Vajrapani, the Bodhisattva of great might. They are surrounded by an inconceivable assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Immeasurable peace and happiness is the pure land of great bliss. When I and all beings pass from this life, may we be born in that land, unhindered by another samsaric birth, and may we then behold the face of Amitabha, boundless light. May all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions bless this aspiration, that it may be accomplished without hindrance. Emaho tsar sangye namata yedang yesu jo tukche chenpo dang yontu sempa tu chento namla sangye ja sempa me kojiko deki o tsar po tu me pai de o chenje ja we shinkante dag jendi ne tse pöger mata ke wa jenji barma tu par Derukene nate japton sho de kedagi munlam tapai. Chokchui sangye jaksem tam cheki gemen drupar sinji la tuso. Tedyata pantadriya awa bodhanaya so. And that is particularly dedicated to Andre. And now you have a copy, I think you have the prayer for world peace and welfare. Yes? Let's pray that together. The 3 jewels and 3 roots, trustworthy source of refuge, and in particular the Lord of Snow, Avalokiteshvara, Jyotuntara, and Guru Padmasambhava, I supplicate you, please follow your previous pledges. Bestow blessings that this aspiration prayer may be fulfilled most perfectly. Due to the degeneration of times, when thoughts and deeds of beings are perverted, and the inner and outer elements have lost their balance, humans and cattle are seized by epidemic disease previously unheard of. Intruding Rahus, Nagas, powerful demons, and dark forces, blight, frost, and hail, bad harvest, warfare, and so forth, erratic rainfall, heat, misery, and droughts in the world, destruction by the elements such as earthquakes and the threat of fire, and in particular barbaric offenses causing harm to the teachings are rampant. May all types of harm and injury around the world be swiftly pacified and overcome. May precious and supreme bodhicitta spontaneously arise in the mind streams of all beings, human and non-human, and may they be free from destructive thoughts and deeds. May all be endowed with a loving mind for one another, and may well-being, glory, and prosperity prevail throughout the world. May the Buddha's teachings spread far and wide and ever last. By the truthful power of the 3 roots, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, by any root of virtue existing in samsara and nirvana, and by the power of our perfectly pure highest intention, may the fruition of our supplication and aspiration be attained. Thank you. The way to reach me if you want to follow up on any question that you raised that wasn't responded to, and I think there were some questions that we never got to, you can send me an email, Kara, at this address, registration@garchen.net. Okay, and ask that it be forwarded to me. Okay, I'm very slow correspondent, so by the time my response comes, probably the answer has already come to you through the top of your head. Or arisen like a blooming lotus in your blooming lotus heart. Thank you with all my heart for being here today. Thank you so very much. I'm so grateful.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Barbara.
I pray that we will soon meet again.
Thank you, Barbara. We should.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Good night.
Good night.
Very good night to all.
Gotta go.
There's one person whose face I haven't seen that. Helene, can you show your face? I think she's going to. Let me just see. Helene.
Actually, it's because my camera doesn't work.
Okay.
Otherwise, I will. I'm very sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. I'm happy for the faces I've been able to see and the voices I've been able to hear and the hearts I've been able to feel.
I don't know how to open it. If I could, I would. It's a joy to see you. I hope one day to see you in person. Indeed, yes, it would be a delight.
That would be a delight too. But meanwhile, I understand technology challenges. I want to send a special shout out of thanks here to Garcia, our tech genius, who kept us moving pretty well, all things considered. Right? Considering that I like to go on and on. Anyway, so
You're all very welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you have the time, please join us again tomorrow at 10 a.m. Arizona time for Lama Chopa with His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche.
I opened it. Somebody showed how to do it.
Oh, there you are. Hi. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Okay. Go well, everybody. Go in the light.
All right.
You are now inseparable from Vajrasattva. So remember, when the baby cries, the mother's milk comes down. We're the babies.
All right. Peace be with you.
Thank you. I would like to say I rejoice in Aiden. Good karma. You're so young and you're receiving the teaching so early. I rejoice. You're very young.
Do you want to respond, Aiden?
Yeah, I don't know what to say, but
Amazing.
very much.
Okay, dear ones. May we see each other again very soon, and always in the light, we'll remember each other.
Night, Barbara.
Thank you, teacher. Thank you.
All the best to all.
Good night, Barbara.
Good night.
I love you, Barbara. Je t'aime.
Je t'adore, ma chère. Je t'adore.
Merci.
Salut. Au revoir.
Mille merci.
Benzer sato samaya manu palaya Benzer sato tino pa ti chandro me bawa Suda kayo me bawa supo chayo me bawa Anurato me bawa sarva sede me drayeta Sarva karma sujame citam hirayam guru ha 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 ho bangave sarva tathangatam benza mame benza benza bhava maha samaya sadho Om benza sato samaya manu palaya Benzer sato tino pa ti chandro me bawa Suda kayo me bawa supo chayo me bawa Anurato me bawa sarva sede me drayeta sarva karma